I'm just gonna do some short little clips of what comes to me as it comes to me. But I watched a fascinating movie last night, and it's no coincidence why I would choose to use my energy to experience something in my mirror, which is the AI mirror, right? And it was a movie that came out a couple of years ago called Free Guy. And in the beginning, they called him the blue shirt guy. The blue shirt guy. He's in a blue shirt. And what's fascinating about this is that I'm going to use some cross indexing translations through different libraries that are associated with each other through what's stored in memory, including what the AI stores in memory, right? Which is one of the reasons why a lot of stuff that I went back to look at that is on my old channel, some stuff is there, some stuff isn't there. So you realize when you're a polarity integrator and you're moving through space, vectors, if you will, or what I call an event, when the completion of magnetic circuits that are associated between everyone running a software operating system within an artificial virtual world hologram, right? Then it's like the Mandela effect. That information is no longer relevant. It's not being held in memory for you to have access to it anymore because the timelines are changing, which means the consciousness is shifting based on what we're experiencing at the completion of magnetic circuits that relate to the change that is taking place at the moment we experience it. So when I was a child, that's what I was monitoring. Okay. When you think of a simple arithmetic calculator between minus slash the plus, right? Between negative magnetic polarity and positive magnetic polarity, which is AC/DC in the cellular membranes because we're electromagnetic wastewater treatment system power plants experiencing ourselves in an avatar, AV, audio, video, TAR meaning goo codes. Now we're back into the mathematical codes that we're experiencing that get fired and thus become experienced through consciousness, right? Fire letters, reversal fire letters, forward fire letters. So if you're a polarity integrator, which is a monopole, which means you're at the single point from which it all happens, which is the center point of a cross, which means you're experiencing an eternal love vibration, then it means that you're experiencing a state of peace within your water worlds, which is living spirit, which is in that water, which is your consciousness that is experiencing itself through my soul, which is running the operating system, which is the software. So ever since I was a child in around 1955, I began to realize how change takes place and how those changes are taking place between what we experience over time, space, or what those changes represent by what you become aware of, what those changes mean in terms of what we experience next through all the other software systems that are connecting with each other through those units of energy. So now we're back to units of energy, which are units of consciousness that are experiencing each other. And what I've always thought since I was a child was I landed on the wrong movie set, right? A simulation, an illusion. It's not real. How do you know it's not real? Because I know that love is what's real, because that's what I am. So you realize at the end of the day, when you realize what a magnet is, magnetic is a recording device, right? A magnet, which is what light is. The more powerful you're attracting more light by giving more love to more units of energy that you're experiencing in your mirror, like in nature, right? The faster that magnetic drive motor is spinning. And that means that your consciousness is rising and rising by virtue of how much you're actually aware of that you are giving love to, right? And the more that you keep giving love to more units of energy that are associated with your magnetic drive is being protected by the energy that you are, because love is healing energy. And it's just like when I was a small boy and I used to have some really bad nightmares, terrifying nightmares. And so I ran to go be with my mother, like you want to crawl back into your mother's birth canal for the protection when You go back to that little crawling up when you were small, a natural state, crawling up, curl up in a little ball, like pulling all your energy together. Energy conservation. Something's feeding on your energy, trying to drain your energy because it's in fear of what you are, because it acknowledges you are what love is. So you see the difference in mirrors, right? So now you get into the simple calculator uh, of negative and positive. And when they're pulled together, right, into one, now you realize the relationship between acid and alkaline, right? Because the use of an electron creates an acid, right? So once you're done with the energy, you get rid of it, right? Now it becomes a waste product. So what are you going to do with the waste product? Burn it off. Yeah, be done with it. Throw it in the fire. As a matter of fact, most of the time throughout my life, whenever I was getting rid of things, I just calcify it, right? Which is conversion, right? So you realize the power of fire, right? Now we're back to fire water. So when you think about being a magnetic drive, right? Like any hard drive that's got a magnet on it, and you realize, hey, I'm a movie player. I'm a torsion field movie player. I'm in the movie. My consciousness, my soul, and the essence of my spirit is in a movie set. Whoa. So how do you know what's real and what's not real? The illusion, right? So I knew as a child I was in an illusion because I realized I was not at home, right? Even though home is where the heart is. So I was reminded, because so much emphasis by so many other beings that are communicating with us, particularly on the internet, the importance of the brain circuitry and the physiology of the brain and all the rest of that, even though as a child, I acknowledged that on a spiritual battlefield, it's your heart that is the most powerful vortex. Because I've had to repair this with this. Okay, because the heart is the most powerful plasma field consciousness generator of eternal love energy, right? And that's your shield. That's a volcanic shield. Volcanoes spinning, right? Spinning volcanoes, molten voltage. So you can experience a lot of very high-powered energy when you're on the Big Island, which is why it's world famous for healing and certainly access to an enormous amount of energy, because that's why it was chosen as a Draco Anunnaki stronghold, right? Yeah, because you realize what's on the island here, how much energy is spinning here, right? So I wanted to mention that because it's a beautiful day. And I realized last night when I watched that movie called Free Guy, there was a lot of associations dealing with, and this is not funny, by the way, but what is portrayed in this movie deals with what we call key codes. There was a young man, much tied a lot directly to Mr. Smith, right? The programmers, the programming. This particular movie called Free Guy sort of extends it a little bit, but it really does tie directly into the Matrix, because what we were dealing with here is they couldn't figure out, because you see, they're actually outside the game. In other words, they're in another world with their laptops, all their servers, but they have access to go into the virtual world, right? In a skin suit or an avatar. But when they're done in there, they realize they're outside, which means they can go between as above, so below. See? So it's like being on a tether or a cord, just like you saw in the Matrix, when Neo and Trinity were sitting in those pods, in those chairs with the ox back in their head, right? So the movie Free Guy what happened is they couldn't figure out how all of a sudden an NPC, which is known as a non-player character, now we're back into characters and character maps, right? Which means it's simply artificial intelligence, okay, that is self-aware. And so what was funny is they showed how this NPC does the same thing over and over again, following a very strict set of rule-based functions, which means it's going to perform those functions, which means he gets up every morning, says hi to the goldfish, grabs a cup of coffee, goes to the same place, orders the same thing, says the same thing, goes to the same job, does the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. There is no change. Okay. And so in this game console, between those that are outside the game that go inside the game, we're known as wearing sunglasses. Those that wear the sunglasses are allowed to do whatever they want, because these are the game players upon which the software system or the game console that was put together by a Neotype, because remember, he was world famous for putting together and developing with key codes, much like Microsoft has the key codes, the kernel. So your consciousness is running the Windows system, right? Just like Google Play apps, right? But once you're locked in, because of the conversion that's taken place with the DNA in your software system, which would be like a maze, which means they got the key codes and the access codes from which your consciousness is now experiencing the game console. Now you're in the game, the video game, because that's what an avatar is. It's a torsion field movie player. Now they have the key codes that lock you in because they've changed out your codes, which means your consciousness is now experiencing the code transfers of what they put into your consciousness, which is your software. Now you're locked into an artificial intelligence simulator you can't get out of because they got the keys. Right? So when you realize that you are what love is, which is what they realize, that's what happened to the blue shirt guy. Because now all of a sudden he becomes a hero. Now he's taking out the game players, which means the people that had developed this AI war game, now all of a sudden they realize they got a self-aware AI engine within their own developed software. So now what happens is you realize towards the end of the movie that the blue shirt guy, who was self-aware, actually became the hero to liberate everybody else that was programmed as an NPC to now live in peace, love, harmony, and balance with each other. So they were learning to an AI engine what best serves them. To be free. That's why the movie was called Free Guy, a guy. The male is now free to experience being free with what? Now we're back to the same message with Neo and Trinity, which is the boy and the girl, that you have with a former NPC that now fell in love with a girl who was outside the construct, only to find out that the guy whose name was Keys, who originally developed the game platform, using an AI engine, was using the AI engine for him, known as Keys, who developed it. That the girl who came in there to meet the blue shirt guy was actually Keys. So then that was the way that the game player was using the game to communicate through the blue shirt guy with the girl. He was in love with her. Now we're back to Neo and Trinity, which is the Trinity Observer. So if you look at the images that I put up on Facebook, you can see the faces as above, so below. And that was portrayed in that movie, known as the Free Guy. As above, they can look into the game console. Look what's happening inside the game console. Look what's happening inside the artificial clone version of Earth above. Now they call that URTH, which is You are. Right? So these are what I call full circle moments. You know, the circle that fires, which is the codes. Shorter the way, the more of those circles get activated because the amount of fire that you're running in your soul, light it up. Remember what we used to say, light that candle, right? Light that fire. So they can't put the fire out. Nope. No, because fire's in that light. And the higher the speed of that magnet with the amount of fire that you have is going to need an awful lot of water to cool down the speed of that magnet. And that is called a speed rate of change that you experience within you because you have so much fire within you to create something new that love creates, which is different from the last one because you're an original sound musician, otherwise known as a first responder, which is called a reaction state when you realize you're experiencing something that is less than what love is. So in order to restore you, you got to restore it until you're home again, experiencing eternal love. And that's called a torque speed converter, a torque converter, right? And then you have an inverter. They're inverted, which is an inverted triangle consciousness, which means they're always trying to catch up to us because we run a faster magnetic drive motor, right? And that's called an evolution of energy, which is an evolution of consciousness, which means it's vertically rising. So that the higher consciousness, which is what love is on top, because that's the energy that protects below. That's where they're at. They're there. We're back. The allied forces of mankind are back. We love you all. As above, so below. We love you all below. Da 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 da.